Yes, I think we are live. So, yeah, thanks everybody. Welcome to the performance team meeting. It's April the 3rd, 2023. We have some couple of agenda items that it's been a while since we talked, so let's get to it, I guess. No worries about it. You can just listen and you can write through the webinar chat if you have any concerns, questions. So there are a couple of announcements that I want to mention. The first one is Ada version 2 is released. I put the announcement post in the meeting guidelines. It comes with 145% faster URL parsing for Node.js, which puts Node.js the fastest JavaScript runtime for parsing URLs. And in the blog post, you can find a benchmark about parsing 100,000 URLs, a realistic benchmark. The second announcement is V8 11.3 brings string prototype to well-formed, which is 70 to 80% faster to USB string. I opened an existing pull request. It will get merged in a day or two, I guess.
Do you know if that's gonna make it to the version 20 cutoff?
I think it will, because it's not a breaking change.
Yep.
It will make it, and this means that we will have a lot faster reading of search params and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that helps in a lot of places when it comes to web standard conformance.
Yes. The only issue with that is that since string prototype to well-formed is a harmony enabled flag in V8, which comes default by true, right now we couldn't add it to primordials. This means that we are calling the string prototype to well-formed, which is open to attacks, but the performance difference is 80%, and I think most collaborators are okay with it at this time.
At least I am.
Yeah. Yeah. I think James is also okay with it, and I'm okay with it. So, yeah. Any other announcements that you want to share? Okay. So we can just start looking at these issues. The first issue.
I could just quickly mention that we managed to get approval on the increasing the stream watermark size and the defaults, and in version 20, and for older releases you can override it yourself and get a small performance boost that way.
Perfect. Thank you for that hard work on the TSC side and getting through that the voting process. So if there isn't any other announcements, let's go to our issues. Number 60 is add remove handlers are slow on event target. So Robert opened this issue because of the abort signal pattern. RxJS didn't see the open signal pattern. There are some improvements. Let me keep up to date on this.
I don't think anyone has spent any time on that.
Devadri added some benchmarks to it, but we didn't have any chance to go over it.
I don't know what has or hasn't happened. I think what would be interesting here is to create a fast path for abort. Like, it's very common that you have one abort listener just for this abort signal pattern. So it could maybe make sense to create a fast path for that specific case, just have a on abort property.
Yeah.
That can be set or not. But yeah, I don't have time to dig into this, but it would be nice to get an improvement here. It would be even nicer if TC39 could get proper cancellation into promise in the standard, but
yeah, it will definitely help. And like the Truvel formed like provides like a really great example. If we had those kinds of things in the JavaScript language, then it would be a lot more performant than having this like JavaScript C++ bridge that we currently have. So yeah, about Ray is writing on the chat. I had attempted to add a hash map based approach to event target, but hadn't had much success on that.
not much success in terms of performance improvement or in terms of not being able to make it spec compliant. Perfect. Yeah. Sad. But isn't event listener like significantly faster? Why is event target so much slower?
Yeah, so I just wrote that to the documents. Yeah.
But do
So we have had some similar issues with Jira Search Params constructor too. The specification says that you need to iterate everything once, and then you need to iterate it once again. And just by replacing that, the performance doubled in 60-70%. So I think we can make some alterations and some breaking changes in those hot paths. Because that's what happened with is event trusted, right?
Yeah. Does it have to be a linked list? Could it be just a regular array?
It doesn't have to be. I don't think the specification is implementation specific. But even if it's implementation specific, it doesn't mean that we can't use anything.
Yeah. Well, yep. Unless anyone has any questions on that issue, I don't think I have much more to add.
That's so Devadri, for those who are listening on YouTube and couldn't read the messages, Devadri says that it could be array, but would require major refactor of event target.
Yeah.
Yes, if anybody has some time and the willpower to do that refactoring, it will be greatly appreciated, I guess.
Yeah.
So let's
and
continue.
Actually, a simpler thing we could look into is actually have a benchmark for the abort signal case. Adding one event listener. Because I think the benchmarks now test, adding multiple event listeners and removing multiple event listeners.
Yes.
Just thinking out loud.
So event target had removed the but Ray created that. Yeah. So let me write that. So what was that you said, Robert? Can you repeat that?
We could make I think it would be good to make a benchmark for the case we're trying to optimize, which is adding and removing a single event listener. Because I think the current benchmarks adds multiple event listeners and then removes multiple event listeners. So in the benchmark for this specific case, we would never actually traverse the linked list because it would only contain one element. So in that specific case, in theory, it shouldn't matter if it's a linked list or an array because it's only one element.
So in abort signal, what other steps could have overhead other than adding and removing from event target?
I think that's it. Like in fast paths, you just add the event listener when you start the operation. And in 99% of cases, you would probably expect that operation to finish, and then you remove the listener.
So right now, the current benchmark only tests the linked list traverse speed.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen. I haven't seen the benchmark. So maybe
I can share that link. This is the benchmark.
Is that the one you event target there? Yeah.
Event target and remove. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it basically creates 5 event listeners and removes them, and then benchmarks it.
Yeah. So here, basically, what we're not testing the abort signal case here because we're adding multiple. So we're actually creating a linked list in this case, and we're dispatching the event, which is not actually what we want to benchmark. It's adding and removing the events, which I think this one actually doesn't. This benchmark doesn't test that at all.
Okay. I just wrote that to the. Any other questions on this matter?
No.
So let's continue to 64. I'm sharing the issue. I just added this a couple of minutes before the meeting. Before starting, let's Debadri said something. So a single benchmark just for adding abort signal and then dispatching abort event and removing.
And not even dispatching the event, just adding the listener and removing it. That's the common case.
Okay. So number 64, session proposals for the next collaborator summit. This is, I only added this for visibility purposes. John had some ideas about the collaborator summit. Upon talking, we created an issue for performance. And if anybody wants to talk about or learn about a specific thing, they can just comment on this issue or the collaborator summit proposal issue. And yeah, I will be happy to. Yeah.
When it says stream performance, is it web streams?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
If there are any interest towards it, I can also talk about a little bit about Ada and the optimizations that we did. But yeah, it's totally optional.
I think it would be nice to whoever is going to those sessions is, maybe present some areas of improvement and try to encourage people to help out in those. So have concrete examples.
I think Jan is going there in person, and I will be remotely attending that conference. Yeah, definitely having seeing some numbers greatly attracts attention and promotes people to work on performance stuff. So yeah, I agree. The next issue, if there isn't any other questions on this, BAM and Dino comparison, issue number 55. It was initially created by Robert. I added this to the performance agenda because I've been actively working on creating some benchmarks comparing Dino, BAM, and Node. I was mostly doing this on my personal repository. I'll be happy to add all of my benchmarks to the performance repository if this is what we want, because it comes with a maintenance cost. And I want to hear your opinions about whether it's a good idea or not.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
I think, for me, the primary, it's not just that we're better than Dino or whatever. It is to identify obvious places where there is possibility for improvement. So if Deno is like twice as fast as us in a certain area, that means also that there is more obvious room for us to do improvements in that area.
Yes. So for visibility purposes, we can keep this on the performance agenda for the next meeting, and then if everyone's okay with it, then we can close it and I can open a draft PR.
Yep.
Okay. So the next issue is number 44. Abort signal pattern is slow.
Yeah.
I think this is the same issue, right?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the same.
Okay. So I will close it then.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. The next issue is module resolution, number 39. John created this issue after the tweet from Marvin. We've had some discussion about it. I even opened the pull request about it. As far as I know, even my open pull request is pending because there's an active off-thread, like moving loaders to off-thread pull request, which is really big, and any change that we create on these files will create a conflict. And I was hesitant about merging my PR because of this. And yeah.
I think we can put this on hold until that PR has landed.
Okay.
The off-thread.
I will remove the performance agenda table from here.
And add a comment that on hold until link to PR is merged. I don't have that PR now, but yeah, we can fix that later.
Okay. The next item is number 32, which is event target. Once again, we have too many event target benchmarks.
What's
event target is likely still slower than the event emitter. I think this is same.
Yeah, we're coming back to. But is this about adding and removing, or is it something else? Because another thing is creating the events.
Might want to just have like an aggregate issue that's like point to all these and close those, and then just be like, there's a bunch of issues to fix. Here's
yeah. So I think Santiago worked on this for the event is trusted prototype pull request, and that pull request is merged.
Okay.
I think that pull request addresses this concern because the creation of events was an issue, and their contribution improved it by 186%, which is amazing.
Yeah, I think maybe we can close it then.
Yes. Okay.
These are the things that I would expect. For example, Dino benchmark. Give us an indicator if we need to, spend more time on improving this or not, or a bun benchmark for that matter.
Yes, I agree. So the last issue on our agenda is fetch, number 11.
My good old friend.
Yes, we are coming back to the same issue every once in a while. And I'm keep closing it and Matteo is keep opening it. I don't think there is any work done on here. And
yeah, I don't know where we are gonna improve things. I know like these benchmarks are only looking at, creating a request, getting a small response, and then closing it. I do believe that, reading big bodies is also very slow. Because web streams are slow to read. So there is more work to be done, but I just don't know how much time we should spend on this.
Well, I had a talk with James about this at one point, and like basically his assessment was that like fetch is slow because web streams is slow because event target is slow. And it's like
Because
all of
what is
it's
slow?
coming back to event target.
Yeah, could be.
they're definitely like intercoupled, and everything comes back to streams, web streams, or event target or event emitter or anything else. And
in that sense, fetch is a good target for optimizing because it has the whole cycle in it.
yes,
But I don't know. Maybe we can ask Rafael to do another analysis of fetch and where things are slow. He did a great analysis like a year ago. Maybe it's time to do another iteration of that. So I don't really have any specific things right now. I guess Ada will also improve things. I'm not sure if that's included in Matteo's benchmark sample here.
So we have been definitely using URL in multiple places in the hot path of doing a fetch request. So I shared some benchmarks on the fetch issue. It definitely improved twice. And with the latest changes, I'm pretty sure it's going to improve it by twice again, by 100%. But Matteo's first primary concern was that since Ada improves the URL and other libraries like Node Fetch or other Axios or whatever the libraries are, they're also using the same thing. Compared to them, we're still slow, but the overall ecosystem is getting that performance boost.
Yeah, I mean, we are slower than Node Fetch because Node Fetch uses node streams.
Yes. So maybe the underlying issue would be to improve web streams.
Yeah, but I think the next level we can do with web streams is implementing it in C++.
Yes, I have some plans about doing it after Ada because I'm sort of disgusted about URL and URL parsing right now. But yeah, it's definitely on my agenda in the upcoming.
You can call it Oda.
Oh, yes. If I have a second kid, I will definitely name it after the WebStream library. But for now, I'm going to be like okay with Ada and first kid, I guess. Yeah,
so I have to lobby your wife, and then maybe we get web streams fixed.
Yeah, for those who's watching this YouTube live stream, that I named the Ada URL parser library after my first kid, who's going to be born in 2 months. So that's why we're laughing about it. So yeah, but it's definitely on our radar, and I think Daniel is also have some ideas about like he also wants to work on it. Daniel Lemire, so it will definitely go back to that.
Yep.
Is there any questions or any other thing that people want to share?
How did it go with that increasing max semispace issue?
I think issue is the pull request is open, but the tests are failing because of the default semi-space size change. Here's the pull request for it.
Yep, I have to get going to another meeting, but I did have a thought. If like it might be interesting if we could get benchmarks to have like a way that we can like enable profiling while benchmark happens, and then like do like a profile dump.
Doesn't Matteo have like this? What is it called? Clinic or Node Clinic, or that does this?
But like if we had like a flag or something that like was just part of our benchmark suite, that we could just be like, yeah, run this benchmark and capture a profile while you're doing it. Like that'd be pretty useful, because like the benchmark gives us like time of like how long it takes to do the thing, but it doesn't really give us a lot of insight into like what's actually costing us in that benchmark.
So
yeah, the benchmarks are only relative.
Yeah, so
relative to something.
Yeah, so the thing is, Clinic was not sufficient for my own benchmark requirements. So I'm mostly using instruments on Mac app to understand the CPU, memory, and time constraints of a certain task. But the issue with our benchmarks is that because it creates multiple processes, it's really hard to understand where we are losing time, because it spawns a lot of process and then destroys it. So yeah.
Like
But definitely instruments is a really great way in Mac.
Like even just having like the V8 profiler run like while you're running a benchmark, like it's maybe not going to tell you like everything that's happening. Like there's going to be C++ stuff, but it can give you something to look at least in the JavaScript side.
Yeah.
Anyways,
can you share some documents about the how we can enable it? Because this is the first time that I've been hearing it, so I would really much like to learn more about it.
Sure. Yeah, I have to get going to another meeting now. So
talk to you. So yeah, Prof. Okay. By the way, Debadre, can you add your name to the meeting document? Perfect. So yeah, any other questions? No, actually increasing the default semi-space to 64 megabytes. Debadre says that there is one concern regarding the same semi-space that was raised by Joey. Maybe, Robert, it makes sense to you to look into it.
What was the concern?
In the original pull request that Debadre opened, it says that like you can just set this in the resource constraints in the isolate create params, which can be done in blah blah.
Yeah, I don't know. Joey's suggestion makes sense, and Debadre has a patch there, so I'm not quite sure what is the blocking issue here.
I think the first one is why the tests are failing. We know this. Okay, is it possible to override it from the command line?
What test is failing? They haven't run a CI on this yet.
Yeah, the GitHub workflow is failing. Actually, all of them.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I have stable internet right now. So I was referring to Ben's comment on the PR that how do we validate a change like this? That we have benchmarks that says, it's beneficial for big servers, but it destroys, Raspberry Pis or something like that. So that is one thing. I don't think we have any way to test that. And the second thing is that I tried to set it from this V8 set flags from string, but Joey says that that might not be the best way to go with it. And the second option was to use this max allowed young gen size in bytes function of V8, but I don't know if it sets the semi-space size or it sets the size of the entire scavenger heap. So I'm confused over there. Yeah, those are the 2 points.
I think it sets the semi-space.
The semi-space, okay. Because the documentation on this is also quite scarce. Most of the time I can't find any documentation.
If you want to
Okay.
make 100%
Okay,
sure, you would have to go into V8 and see what that command line option does.
Okay.
So
That's a good idea.
just Google or, go into the V8 code and see what that does. That command line option. And I would assume that it just sets that constraint. Let's see if we can find it quickly.
Let's
Ilya.
see.
Sorry, dogs. V8 flags, max semi-space.
By the way, this constraints.set max young generation size in bytes, we also call that specific function, constraint function, in Node worker too. This is the reference line.
I think it was called semi-space before, but they have changed the name in the code to young generation.
Okay, so I was able to find this code and I think it sets more than just the semi-space. In the original issue, 1 second, let me just find what I found. Okay, so here it is. So there are, as far as I read from this documentation over here, it says that this young generation space is split into 2 halves or something like that, and semi space is just one of them. And also when I check the default value of this max young set, whatever this long function name, it came something like 128 MB or something like that, which is greater than this default semi space, which is 16 MB, I think. So I think it sets something more than just the semi space. There's that.
Max semi-space. Scavenger. Max semi-space size. I think we can continue this in that PR.
So, yeah. Any other questions or concerns that you want to share? Anybody want to share?
One moment. So
Nothing more for now. I will try applying that, just calling this function and checking whether
look at that
that,
link
it
there. I
also-
think that gives you a hint.
Okay.
On how it's calculated.
Okay.
Right, cool.
Okay, cool.
So thank you for coming and see you at the next meeting.